My name is Adianas, and this is my Sprint 1 for my engine. So the first thing I did, of course, was name my engine. So it's Mithril Engine, and then in my assets I separated my shaders and my models. They're all in their respective folders. So for my three managers, they're all set up the exact same way. I used a map for my collection with the pairing of a string for the key and a shader object pointer for the value. And of course the standard singleton setup, so I have the instance of itself as a pointer, default constructor, assignment operator, and copy constructor, as well as a default destructor. And here I have the check to make sure if the instance does not already exist, then I create a new one, and if it does, I just return it. And then I have four functions that are common amongst all the managers. So I have a load, get, load defaults, and unload all. And what my load does is it takes a key and a file path, and it asserts that either of them or both of them are valid, so they're not empty. And it also asserts that that key is not already associated with a shader, so it checks to see if the value is null, and if it is, then it's fine, it'll work, and then if not, it'll say duplicate key found. So what I do to just add it is just set the index of that key to a new shader object with that file path, and then the shader object takes that file path and it creates the shader correctly. And then I assert after that to make sure it's not a null pointer, which means it was created successfully. And then I set a debug message out saying successfully loaded with the name of the shader, so I'll run this. And you can see everything works fine. I'll close it out and scroll up here. It'll say successfully loaded, flat render, light render, everything in my load defaults. So what I have here under the load default is I just picked which ones I want to automatically run or load in when I start my engine. And I have these 5 right here. And these are all loaded in without user input, but if the user wanted to add custom ones, they would add them here, or once I have the game as a singleton, it'll be under load all resources. But here under game, I load all default models, textures, and shaders. And again, those just load like all the ones that used to be in the game.cpp, and I chose to set those as defaults. And then for get, my get shader function, I assert that it does exist, so I check the key and the value. As long as it's not null, it's good, and then I just return it. And then the way that's used here, of course, is just shader manager, get shader, and then the key. And for graphics objects that use shaders, that's what they call, same with models and textures. And my texture and model managers, again, are set up the exact same way. For unload shaders, this is called at the very end when the window is closed out, and unload content is called. I just call unload shaders, models, and textures on the respective managers. What this does is create an iterator at the beginning of the map. It iterates through the map, deleting the value of each iterator, so the second pairing. I set it to null pointer for good measure, and then I increase the iterator. And then after deleting everything, I just delete self, the instance of itself, because we're not going to use it anymore. It's called when it's closed out. And for the thing that's different about the model manager is that it has 2 load models, one that takes the file path, one that takes the pre-made models. Because I noticed that for Azul you have these default spheres, boxes, etc. So for that, it's the exact same thing, but instead of a file path, it takes a pre-made model and it creates a model out of that. And the exact same way that it's created by a file path, it's created by a pre-made. And it checks the appropriate asserts. And under here, we'll see get model unit sphere. So this is part of my load default models. And it's called the exact same way as if I were calling a model that wasn't pre-made. We'll go under here to model manager. And here it is, load model unit sphere with a parameter model pre-made models unit sphere. Again, run it. And the binding sphere is there, everything's all good. We'll close this out. And that's pretty much it. Again, not too much variance between all of them. I was able to just copy and paste for the most part once I had my shader manager, and everything worked out just fine. The thing that I probably won't have in the end is my load defaults here. I'll probably have the defaults loaded in with my load all resources, but that's all I have for this sprint. Thank you.